Welcome to this week's edition of Outdoors Online, a weekly webcast produced by the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. I'm your host, Tom Jensen. My guest this week is Chief Enforcement Officer Bob Timian. We're going to talk about violations from last year. Bob, you're just getting your statistics back in now. A little bit early in the game, but wardens were busy last year.
Yes, Tom, they were. Overall, for the state, violations were up from the previous year, which were, we're showing somewhat of an upward trend.
Basically, more people, more violations.
Yeah, that's true. However, at some point in time, there'll probably be a leveling off. Not necessarily because there isn't more violations out there, but when you have a finite number of staff, wardens in the field, there is a point beyond which they are doing all that they can do. And so it won't mean necessarily that there isn't continuing violations out there. At some point in time, that we may just be a saturation point for what the staff we have can do.
Sure. What was the #1 violation in North Dakota last year?
Well, Tom, like you just mentioned, we're early into the statistics, so we haven't gotten everything, but it appears, at least at this point in time, that once again, no license, especially fishing with no license, will probably be our #1 again this year.
Is that just a matter of people forget to buy them, or they ignore it, or?
We've been looking into that a little bit, and we've done education, and we just don't seem to, quite pinpoint why any one particular reason, because it certainly can't be price, because in North Dakota, a fishing license is in consideration for all that is relatively inexpensive. Where else can you for a few dollars get a license that you can use 12 months out of the year? So sure. We figure it can't be money, it's got to be something else, but we haven't been able to exactly put our finger on exactly why.
Where else did your wardens have increases last year, Bob?
Well, the big example, in which surprising, was that how big a jump McKenzie County went from last year, and last year was a jump from the previous year. It's just I'm assuming that it's got to level out, because the guys up there can only do so much, but it was a #1 county by almost double the second place.
Right. McKenzie County now is home to one of our largest wildlife management areas in the state. Obviously attracts a lot of people and a lot of different violations on the WMA.
Yeah. That was the surprising thing in McKenzie County, is that in McKenzie County last year there was over 400 violations. Of those, almost 300 of those occurred in and on our Lewis and Clark wildlife management area. And they did run the gamut from, though most of them were what people refer to as game and fish violations or WMA violations. We also, our officers were also arresting people for outstanding felony arrest warrants from other places. We had illegal aliens, drug violations. If you think of a violation of law, we probably occurred under WMA down there. So
your wardens are kind of doing all-round duty. It's not just game and fish.
Yeah, by law, on property the department owns or manages, like our WMAs or sovereign lands, our officers are full-time. They enforce all state laws. We're law enforcement. Our officers are licensed peace officers, state of North Dakota. We also, when called upon to assist, we also, by other agencies, we assist in law enforcement too. So our officers, in addition to doing game and fish violation type stuff, which is their primary activity and primary responsibility, they also do add to the overall public safety of North Dakota by assisting other agencies and on our WMAs doing those other law enforcement functions. You mentioned McKenzie County, and of course there's a lot more people up there and new residents and things, but it's not the only trouble areas around the state. Yeah, yes, Tom. I mean, the purpose with McKenzie County was to just that the surprise was the amount. But does that mean that there aren't other places that are showing increase in violations up around Ramsey County? Devil's Lake, very popular fishing lake. You know, we've seen increases in violations up there. Now, when you go into that, you know, there's a couple things, and this is what comes with our analysis. Just because you see an increase in the number, you know, you got to dig into that a little bit to find out. I mean, in some cases, it may be because that's an area where for the past year we put additional effort and spotlight on, so we would expect it to go up. In another area may have went down because, well, you know, like I said, we have limited number of people. If we put them on a particular area, they may not have been focusing as much on another area, so that area might have gone down.
As you learn about these Ramsey County, for sake of example, and you start to saturate the area with more law enforcement, with more of your wardens checking more people, does that act as a deterrent if people know that there are more wardens out there?
Yes, it seems to. That, you know, I mean, in any law enforcement, one of the things that acts as a deterrent is people anticipating that they will encounter law enforcement. North Dakota has a tradition of its citizens being law-abiding and supporting law enforcement. So don't get me wrong in thinking that I'm saying that North Dakotans are not doing that. But for those that might push the edge a little bit, or that knowing that, or at least anticipating that you will be checked, you know, it's kind of like a lock on your house. You know, it keeps honest people honest.
I mentioned that it's early in the game, of course, and you haven't had a chance to really delve into the statistics, but were there anything that surprised you really in there?
Well, like I said, the McKenzie County and the WMA up there, it wasn't a surprise that it was leading again or number, but it was surprising to me about how wide the margin was. But there again, part of the WMA numbers, and as we get into it, as part of the analysis, I'm sure will reflect effort expended, because we know it is an area where we have issues and we have to get on top of that to make sure that that WMA functions the way it's supposed to. You know, I'm sure it will show that we also spent more warden time in there, so it translated into more citations. But I'm guessing then there's going to be areas that warden time that was concentrated in that area was taken away from other things, so there probably will, certain areas will show some decreases. But overall, and that's some of what I look at, statewide overall, there was an increase again this year.
All right, Bob, thanks. You can help North Dakota game wardens by reporting violations you witness to the RAP line. RAP stands for Report All Poachers. If you witness someone breaking the law, do not confront them personally. Take note of the potential poacher's height and weight, the clothes they're wearing, the vehicle they're driving, and if possible, get a license number. Then use your cell phone to call the RAP line. The number is 800-472-2121, or if you're calling from outside North Dakota, the number is 701-328-9921. For Chief Warden Bob Timian and the rest of the staff here at North Dakota Game and Fish, thanks for joining us for Outdoors Online. We'll see you again next week.